Hi guys, welcome back to this series of I Was Burnt Alive at 21. Hope you've all been enjoying it. Now, if you haven't started from the beginning, I ask you to go back to the beginning, because if you start it here, you won't understand a lot of the things that have been going on in the meantime to lead to this point. So if you have joined here, skip back to number 1 and I'll see you later. For those that already know what's going on, we left this up when I just had that horrific bath and basically preparing me ready for my operation the following day. And so obviously no eating and all the rest of that. So that morning I was taken down to the theatres to have my second operation. And I was taken into the anaesthetist room, and they're all normally, you know, like the first time I went there, they're all bubbly and chatty and friendly. But this time it was all quite off and a bit standoffish, and I thought, well, it's a bit odd. Obviously people have bad days, it is what it is. And one of the anaesthetists put his hand on my shoulder and he was looking down at me and he said, I hear you hit a nurse during the bath time. I'm like, you what? I never touched her, I never went near her, she was nowhere near me. Like, obviously if you watched the video before, you'll know that she jabbed tweezers into the muscle of my leg. And yes, I did clench my fists and I did ball up, but she was over here next to the bath. I was nowhere near her. And, you know, maybe she thought I swung for her, but I literally was like this in the bath, you know, I didn't touch anyone. You know if you hit someone or not. And I definitely 100% didn't do that. So I was like, oh my God, you know, but they think this badly of me. They think I've done this awful thing. And then, so obviously this is spinning around in my head, and I was just like, you know, trying to tell them that nothing happened. Obviously they're not going to listen to me, because why would they? Why would she lie? Obviously, this really awful nurse that I've had all this time. But anyway, then they did the whole hold my hand, count to 10, and inject me so I'd go under, and I got to 10. And like, they're looking at each other, I'm looking at them, and I'm like, you know, I know full well you do the whole count to 10 and then you're gone. You don't even get to 10, you get to 3, 4 maybe, and you're out cold. And the other anaesthetist said, I'm really sorry, but this is going to be very uncomfortable for you. And I was like, well, what's that then? And they plugged this like big, quite thick syringe into the back of the Venflon cannula thing in the back of my hand, and very slowly put it in, and it absolutely burnt. Agony. They actually pushed down on my shoulders to stop me kind of shaking so much, because it burnt that bad. It felt horrendous, and I felt it travel up my arm, travelled to my heart, and I felt it go all over my body. And as it went up my neck, gone. I don't remember anything from that point, but that was agony, absolute agony. So yeah, that was another real exciting point in this never-ending shit show of things that have gone wrong. So, you know, it was just so much pain. But anyway, obviously I've out cold. I have I have done. Same again. I wake up in my room on my own. Now, what the difference with this one, I had like a morphine injection thing. So you have like a button, and when the pain is getting really bad, you press the button to give yourself a bit of morphine. Now, I haven't had this before. And the problem is I didn't even know what it was. So I'm laying in bed and I'm just like, click, 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 click. What's this? Click, 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 click. Now, I'm sure these things are limited, so they can only give out a certain amount in a certain time period. So I'm sure every time I pressed it, I wasn't getting dosed with morphine. I'm not saying I got an overdose, but I was pressing this button constantly. I was just like, because I didn't even know what it was. I just like click, 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 click. Don't know what that is, you know. Well, I'm sat there, and obviously I'm a bit out of it anyway through just coming out of an operation. And I just started feeling really nauseous and sick. I'm like, oh, I don't feel good, you know. And I'm laying down, just feeling worse and worse. And like, I had one of those funny little, looks like recycled paper hats. And I'm sick, and I throw up, and I, you know, There's nothing coming out because I didn't eat the day before, so it's just green bile coming out. And I'm just feeling worse and worse and worse, and I'm urging and being sick. So I pressed the little panic button thing, and the nurse come in, and it was a nice nurse, and she's, oh, everything right, and I'm just keep urging and keep like trying to throw up and urging and trying to throw up. And she's, oh, good grief, you know. And so she took this button off me, and she said, oh, right, oh, you might be having a reaction to the morphine. So they took this morphine thing out of me, unplugged it and took it out. And that was that. And just kept giving me more and more of these paper hat things to throw up into. And yeah, I just kept throwing up. Well, to be fair, I wasn't throwing up. I was just urging and like, you know, retching because it was all out. There was nothing to come out. So everything just hurt and my stomach hurt and just hours and hours and hours of it. Now, what I will also add here is there was this lovely, lovely couple. This guy come in and who was had a very bad injury to his arm. Obviously, I won't say who he is and what it was because that's private. But he was really full of life, lovely, lovely guy. Wife was amazing. She was really funny. Used to pop in and have a chat. And with my family as well as me, just they're a really nice couple, quite young, a little bit back then, a little bit older than me, but you know, thereabouts. And she stuck her head in the door and she goes, oh, hi, Adam. And I went, and she's like, oh, are you all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Just constant urging. So she come in. She didn't go, oh, that's disgusting, and went out. She come in. She goes, oh, where's your family? I said, oh, I'm on my own today. They can't get up because it's a work day. Everyone's at work and, you know, I've been a long time. And she goes, oh, you can't be on your own like this. I said, well, you know, it is what it is. And every couple of minutes. So she disappears. I thought, I don't blame her disappearing because this is not nice. It can't smell nice, let alone watching someone urging constantly. And about, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes later, thereabouts, she comes back in again and she's like, Adam, yes. It's just, she said, I've just had a word with my husband and I'm going to stay with you today. She said, you can't be on your own. This is awful. I said, you don't want to be with me today. This is disgusting. No one wants to watch anyone sit and urge. And she's like, don't be silly. She said, I'll be here. Don't worry. I can't leave you on your own like that. And I'm like, oh, no, no, it's okay. It's just awful, awful. And this wonderful, wonderful woman stayed with me. You know, it didn't matter what I said. I couldn't get rid of her. And I was only trying to do it for her. I felt awful. And just literally every few minutes I was urging. And she just sat there and she just held my hand and she was just rubbing my forehead and rubbing my arm, just telling me it's going to be all right. And I tell you, that woman should have been a nurse. She was phenomenal. And just me sat urging for hours and hours. And I mean, she stayed till kicking out time. She literally stayed for the entire day till she had to leave. And she had to leave her husband. And she literally just 10 minutes before she had to go, she said, oh, I've got to go now. And you know, how do you thank someone like that? How on earth do you thank that person? You know, she's just amazing. And I just spent the entire, from 10 o'clock through to 8 o'clock at night, urging, trying to talk to her and trying to chat, but just urging. And yeah, I truly thankful to that lady. She just, yeah, what a woman, you know, and yeah, lovely, lovely woman. So anyway, obviously she left, I'm still urging, and now I've got pain. Obviously I've got lots of pain, but I've got a new pain. So obviously my throat hurts from urging and it's burning, but I got a really bad pain in my side. And I'm like, oh, now what? Now, so I've got this thing going now. So I'm urging, going, urging, It was a joke. I tell you, if you'd have videoed it, you'd probably laugh because it was horrendous and it was just agony coming from my side. So again, in the end, I buckled. I pressed the panic button, and this nurse come in. I said, I know what's going on. I'm trying to talk to her and urging again. And I said, I've just got this massive issue. I'm like, ooh. And she goes, oh, she said, oh, I bet I know what that is. I was like, oh, what is it? Ooh. And she said, you've cracked ribs. She said, because you've urging for so long and your stomach has contracted so much, so often, you've actually cracked ribs doing it. So, it's just, this thing is never ending. Just everything keeps going from bad to worse, and then from worse to even more worse. So yeah, it was horrific. And I spent that night as well urging. It kind of, they tried to give me something to take the sickness feeling away, but it didn't go. And eventually, excuse me, I'm guessing it went because the morphine that was left in my system had worked its way out. So about halfway, 2/3 of the way through the night, kind of 2-3 o'clock in the morning, I'd stopped urging. I felt sick, but I'd stopped actually urging. So yeah, the following morning, obviously not my legs, but I had my dressings done. And now what now has transpired, which the surgeon has pointed out, is on my right inner thigh, where they'd taken the skin from the second time, which was agony. I had a patch of 3 large open sores. So they just weren't healing. They weren't getting any smaller. They weren't showing any signs of healing. They were just still wide open and really, really manky and not nice. Now, this skin eating disease had obviously been dealt with because they wouldn't have operated on me if it hadn't. So that had gone. So it wasn't that, but they were just wide open and not looking good at all. So when I had the consultation in the morning, which we had every morning, the doctor said, we'd like to use medical grade maggots on your wounds to try and clean up all the dead tissue and all the stuff that's bad in the wounds. And hopefully cleaning it really, really well will help it heal. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not squeamish. I don't mind. You carry on. You know, whatever it means to help heal, I'll do. So an hour or two later, they come in, literally, and they are maggots. These little tiny pure white maggots. And they have these like plasters. It's like a plaster with a clear patch in the middle. And they just put the maggots in the middle of this plaster and just put it over the wound. And I'd be lying if I said you couldn't feel it, but it wasn't that kind of scratchy, itchy, you've got bugs on you feeling. It was just, there was a very, very slight feeling of movement, but nothing irritating and nothing that I would complain about anyway. But, to have the maggots on me didn't bother me. That was, so what, So I had that on 3 patches on my leg. And whilst they were doing that, they also talked to me about these kind of experimental patches. And it almost looked like polystyrene paper is all I can say what it looked like. And it was like, if you imagine a lump of polystyrene packer that had been completely compressed, so it was like 1/2 mil thick. And what they were saying, after these maggots, they were going to put these, so the maggots clean it, immaculately clean. And maggots, I don't know if anyone knows, so I'll say, maggots only eat dead flesh. They don't eat live, living tissue. So, it was no harm to anything good on me whatsoever. But the idea is the wound would be spotlessly clean because all of the bad, negative and, rotten bits of flesh that are left on my wounds will be gone. So these polystyrene type sheets, what they do is they cut it out and they stick it on, they lay it over the open wound and then obviously bandage it. And the idea is it just soaks up and soaks all of the fluids and juices up and dries it out and hopefully helps it form a scab. And then once your body forms a scab, it can then start to heal from the underneath of the scab. So they said once the maggots are off, this is the next stage in trying to heal these open sores that won't heal. Because obviously I have other things going on all the time. My arms and my hands are being worked on and cleaned and whatever else. My face. Now, interesting, I haven't brought up my face recently. Now, by the time my second surgery had gone, obviously I've had bandages on my face and creams and whatever else. Now, again, I was told this back then, so if anyone knows any different, obviously you're more than welcome to put it in the comments and to explain whether I'm right or wrong. But back then I was told that your head heals the quickest. It heals first because it's got essential, your brain and whatever else in there. So by this point, my head actually was starting to not look, yes, I had scabs and whatever else, but my eyes had actually drawn back into my skull. They weren't sticking out. So yes, I had the wounds that I had from the burns, but they were healing actually very well. To the point where if you look at my face, like obviously I don't know how well you can see my face on your screen, but there's almost no signs of scarring on my face at all. When I get really brown, you can actually see different shades of brown on my face where the bits of skin are slightly thinner than others, so they tan a bit quicker. Same as my hands and stuff like that, you can see it on them. But yeah, that my head was healing actually very, very well. And the worry I had at the very beginning of looking like a frog for the rest of my life was going quite quickly. You know, I wasn't as petrified of having that situation stay with me. So yeah, that was a really, really interesting thing. The way that they were going to use these maggots and this polystyrene foam stuff. So the next few days after that was just literally just rolling on. I had a bath, I think, every other day for a while then. Now, luckily for me, obviously those of you who have been watching from the beginning know how bad these baths are. And luckily I didn't have a bath with this bad nurse. It was all with nice nurses. So yes, they're excessively painful. I don't want to keep going through those. You all know what happens every single time. It's a lot of pain, a lot of bleeding, a lot of discomfort. But you know, I have to have it done. It was what it was. Obviously, my leg had to be left, but I had everything else done. So I literally was in the bath with my leg, the one that I had the grass, hanging out the bath, so they could wash the rest of me, because I only actually had the skin grafts on the whole bottom half of my lower left leg. The other leg, although the other leg was bad, it wasn't deemed necessary to put skin grafts on it, so they could bath me just with my leg hanging out of the bath. So, you know, it was a bit awkward and uncomfortable, but let's be honest, the way this story's going, it's all pretty much that all the way through this story. So yeah, so maggots cleaning. I think I had the maggots three separate sessions, because they could only be on you for a certain amount of time. And then they started using this polyurethane stuff. And the problem is, I'm a picker. And this polyurethane did exactly what they said in the tin. They put it on and it'd all soak in. It's like if ever you've had like a Skips crisp and you put it on your tongue and it just sizzles and sticks to your tongue. It's exactly like that. Like you put it on the wound and it didn't physically fizz, but you could feel it just tick, 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 just sticking into the wound. And then around the wound, where obviously wasn't soaked in, was this hard bit of, and I'm like catching the edges of it and just picking it and trying to take bits of it off, which I never took it off so it damaged the bit where it dried out. But it just made me want to pick. It's terrible. And I am a terrible picker anyway. And the one thing, I stopped doing it very quickly because my nose was like one giant scab inside and out. And I'd just sit there and I'd be like, just catch the edge of a scab and it hurt, but it was like a satisfying hurt. And I'd be like picking and I shouldn't be doing it. And then every now and again you get this and you just catch a nerve and it just is like piercingly crisp pain. And like, yeah, stop picking. And an hour or so later, that bit that you'd picked would be sticking out and you'd catch it and you'd just be like, oh, yeah. And you just back to it. Yeah, just don't do that. You know, it's like that on that Simpsons episode where Bart's trying to get the donut, I think it is, or something, and he gets electrocuted every time he goes to pick it up and he just keeps doing it because he's an idiot. And he's like, buzzed. Well, I was that person. I kept touching my nose and I kept getting shocked from this nerve. But yeah, incessant picker. I shouldn't be it, but I was. So yeah, that was those did what they were meant to do very well. They did dry it out and whatever else. It didn't seem to be getting smaller very quickly, but it was definitely getting drier, and it wasn't looking so angry or so, you know, so mean, so he's saying. So that was that stage done. And it was, I was still very, very down, because I was getting to that point where I was quite lonely. You know, that lovely lady popped in every now and again, and obviously my family come up as much as they could. Even my friends were popping up every now and again, but I've been there quite a long time, and I was very down. I was in a lot of pain. So yeah, I started getting very low. I did get very, very low, and just being very, very lonely. Just sat in this room with a wall to look at out of a window and snooker to watch, which I did enjoy, to be honest. In the end, I got quite into it. But right, well, I'll leave it there for now, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and let us know in the comments, and I'll like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers, guys.